Hello, everybody. It is Sunday, February 19th, 2023, and you are watching Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast the day after the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. And wow, it was a pay-per-view which really did divide opinions. But we're going to get into it today. I'm going to be breaking it all down match by match. And joining me today, firstly, to my right, we have Anthony Ricciardi. How are you, Anthony?
Doing well. Looking forward to talking about this show.
It certainly was one which we've got a lot to talk about for. Below me, we have Clark Taylor. How are you, Clark?
I'm doing really well, but dude, you're clearly out of rhythm on a day like this after a day off. It's a premium live event.
Of course.
It'll never be a live event to me.
I'm kidding. It's always good to see you. Good to have you back. And also, you're in a different country than the last time I saw you on air. So, yeah, stoked to be here on a Sunday. Back again. I've been teasing days off for a while, and we're not there yet, but here for one more.
Yep, absolutely. Clark's done a solid the last couple of days, but tomorrow he will finally get his day off. But we also today, diagonal to me, we have Soul. How are you, Soul?
Evening, lads. Let's just get right into this because I got shit to say.
Oh no, he's not happy. He is not happy. Like I said, the premium live event did cause some controversy. It divided the fan base a little bit. But the match which kicked off the show, which kind of surprised me a little bit, was the Elimination Chamber match for the Raw Women's Championship between Asuka, Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, Nikki Cross, Natalya, and Carmella. And wow, oh wow, this match actually really did surprise me. It was really innovative. And it was just altogether, I'd say, my favorite women's Elimination Chamber match so far. Really, really great opener. And yeah, I did not quite expect it to be as good as it was. Obviously, Asuka got the win. 100% the right choice. But pretty much everybody in the match looked great. I mean, I'm still not a Carmella fan, and I don't think that's ever going to change. But yeah, it was a solid match. What did you think about it all, Clark?
You know, you and I watched it together last night, and I think we both had similar responses. Going into the match, we really talked about the predictability about Asuka winning, but they managed to kind of get us locked in, and both you and I were enjoying that one. I believe Soul was even on the chat at that point, and it was, again, more than exceeded expectations. Multiple women in the match showed things we haven't seen before. It was innovative. I was more than impressed, and I'm in total agreement. And it's kind of funny, they managed to overshadow the, I think, predictability of the result going in, which was the most impressive part to me.
Yeah, I mean, of course, on the show the other day, on Friday's show, we spoke about how we were worried the card was a little bit too predictable. And I mean, to be honest, most of our predictions, apart from a couple, were bang on correct. But this match, even though it was fairly predictable, it was very fun, like you stated. But what did you think, Anthony?
I agree. I mean, I think it was a good choice to open the show. I thought it was a better match than what I necessarily anticipated because of, like we said, the potential predictability of it. But I mean, there were some spots in it that I thought did a nice job. I know we'll get more into it later, but I think both the men's and women's match, chamber-wise, I think they did what they were supposed to do, which is to showcase and elevate everybody involved to the point where it didn't necessarily matter who won the match, even if it was predictable, because everyone kind of had their moment and got a little bit of a shine, especially in the men's. But we'll get more into that. But Asuka is 100% the right choice, and you should take the belt. I think that's the smart choice on that end.
Yeah, I mean, Asuka versus Bianca Belair. I'm interested in seeing it at WrestleMania. It wouldn't have been a match which I predicted a couple of months back. But yeah, you can never go wrong with Asuka. And this version of Asuka especially, I'm excited to see. What about you, Soul? Do you disagree with any of these points?
Actually, I was pleasantly surprised by this when we were on the call watching it last night. Even though like we all thought, oh, it's going to be predictable, going on. But I'm fairly surprised. I mean, hell, Liv was looking strong as hell. Having Natalia do the structure, and I can't remember who else it was. Maybe it was Carmella or something doing or maybe it was Asuka. Someone was doing. Two women were doing a submission move on her and ended up causing her to be passed out and eliminated. That's a hell of a strong way to go out. But yeah, there's plenty of great moments. Even Liv doing like the sunset flip on Raquel off the top of the pod. That was stunning. Carmella being cheeky heel as always. Tactics, that was fine. Asuka winning, happy with that. I really like Asuka. Asuka's a great performer in herself, and I hope she does actually defeat Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's Championship at Mania, and we can get a dominant Asuka run like she had back in NXT.
Yeah, that version of Asuka which we had in NXT isn't necessarily one which we've seen on the main roster at this moment, in this moment in her career. So now that Triple H, I'm saying this, I should not be surprised that Asuka's getting this WrestleMania, spot. Now it's Triple H in charge of Bucking. Triple H was always a big fan of hers. And yeah, I mean, maybe we will see that version of Asuka once again. But Clark, I'll quickly go back to you. Do you think that Asuka versus Bianca Belair is the right choice for WrestleMania?
At this moment, for sure. I'm a huge Bianca fan, and I'm also a huge Asuka fan. I didn't know how we would have gotten here. Like, as you stated before, a few months ago, not so much. I don't know if Asuka's a true heel. I'd like to see in the next few weeks a very vicious streak out of Asuka where she becomes a larger threat, not necessarily that she isn't already, but maybe something more definitive and more, I don't want to say stronger, but I want to see her at her absolute best, beating people up so bad that by the time we get to Mania, we're pretty confident that Asuka is a huge threat to Bianca, because it doesn't make sense to me to build this match to a place where it feels like an upset if Asuka wins the title. It shouldn't feel like an upset if that's the story we're going to tell. And so I would like to see an even more vicious Asuka, I would say, over the next 4 weeks headed into Mania. But outside of that, I don't have an issue with the matchup on paper.
Yeah. What about you?
It's good.
What about you, Sol? Do you think that it's a big enough match for WrestleMania?
I absolutely as well. I mean, Asuka's done achievements in herself. Bianca has this long title reign going on. They're both exceptional performers. I don't see any problem with it. I mean, heck, could this main event a night one situation? I mean, it could do, but I mean, with the main event, obviously something happened there. Something else might main event a night one card. So either that or it's going to be a very good, solid opener match for night one of Mania. But I mean, people have been saying, is Bianca getting a bit stale with what she's going on? I personally think it's a bit of a 50-50 situation. She's had the title for so long and has done a good job of it. But I think getting to the championship she had now was a bit of a flippy flop situation, beating Sasha originally at Mania and then Becky returning and being squashed in less than a minute, then winning it off Becky as well. And I think so much happened at her initial celebration, Becky getting injured, damage control, debuting and everything. It was just all a bit much. So are people going to turn on Bianca and we're going to have a whole, boost situation, we don't care thing? No, but I think that's going to happen to somebody on the roster very soon enough.
Wow. We'll get into that a bit later on in the show. But you did mention WrestleMania Night 1. What will main event Night 1? And that'll be the question which we'll be discussing a lot over the next few weeks, I think, because it really, really is not clear. But yeah, we'll now move on to the next match of the night. And this was perhaps the match which I was least excited for going in. I'm actually going to be completely honest, guys. I've actually can't remember which one of these matches was first. It was the mixed tag team match next, right? Or was it Lesnar last?
I believe it was mixed tag second. Yes.
Cool. Yeah.
No, Lesnar were first, right?
It was.
Was it?
I can't remember.
The three of us were the only three watching it together. This is actually hilarious.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's how forgettable this match was. And look, It was
Well,
shit.
we'll get into it. We'll get into it. So we'll get into it. Right. Firstly, let's go to the mixed tag match. Even if it's the wrong way, screw it. That's the way I've done it in my notes.
Perfect.
And I think you are right. I think Lesnar Lashley was first. But Edge and Beth Phoenix teamed up to face Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley of the Judgment Day. And going into the match, I wasn't really that excited for it, if I'm being honest, because I thought it was a foregone conclusion that Rhea would win because, of course, Rhea Ripley won the Rumble. It's the only, you can't have your Rumble loser win on the lose on the way to WrestleMania. You can't do that. Well, can't doesn't seem to be a word in wrestling. Over and over again, things which shouldn't be done do happen. And yeah, but Edge pinned Balor. At least it wasn't Ripley who took the pin. But yeah, it really was. It was a fun, enjoyable match. It did what it needed to do. There was a bad kick out botch at one point where Edge came in and made this. Beth was supposed to come in and make the save. She didn't. So Edge had to get. I think. Okay. Edge had to come in to lift it. Had to. Sorry about this, guys. We had some technical issues there, and it threw me off. But yeah, Edge was meant to kick out. Instead, Beth jumped. I botched it again.
I got you.
You guys get the point.
The arm came up. There was supposed to be a breakup. Beth was late. I was watching it with you, Ben. So, right, the pin breakup, that was a clear botch. You and I watched it. We watched the replay multiple times. Found it interesting. I do, while we're here, have to give a shout out. We talked about how many of our picks were spot on throughout the week. And I, ironically, due to other circumstances, was on both picks shows. I only did make the one round of picks, but of all of the matches on this card, only one person had this spot on, and I got to shout him out. Host of Take It to the Table. Chaos, our very own, word for word, broke this down on yesterday's daily broadcast. The Canada Pop, Edge by Spear, pins Balor, Rhea not involved in the finish. He was spot on. You and I watched it together. My only complaint is that one pin breakup, but to your point you made last night, Edge did get the arm up last second. Pro's pro. And at the end of the night, they accomplished what they needed. Got the big hometown team winning and sets up a fun match tomorrow night on Raw with Edge and Theory for the United States title. So, I didn't have any issues with it or whatever. And are you back?
Yeah. I am. I'm sure, but yeah, it was. Thank you for saving me, by the way, Clark. We had some technical difficulties. It completely threw me off for a second there, but I am back now. And like you said, it was a fun match, but it's just we are losing. What were your thoughts on it, Anthony?
I mean, that's the thing. Like, it was a fun little match. I was surprised. Like we had all mentioned, oh, they're not going to have Rhea's team lose. I mean, granted, she didn't take the pinfall on it. I'm still more interested in seeing a Rhea Beth match at some point, full one-on-one, to be honest. I think the Judgment Day Edge feud really has to end. I mean, it's been going on forever, and it's really not. It's not very good, to be honest, in my opinion.
Yeah, I certainly think that if they really do need to do Beth versus Rhea, perhaps even like in a couple of weeks on Raw, they need to have it. And I think Rhea needs to get a comfortable victory, because having your Royal Rumble winner lose on the way to WrestleMania, I was not too much of a fan on it. But what do you think about it, Sol?
It was alright. I mean, it was just to build the card as it was, and Edge, Montreal, Canada, hometown thing, and Beth as well. Get it what it was. Kind of a bit worrying, Beth being Rhea being in a losing situation, with the match. Did she look bad out of it? I don't necessarily think so. But no, it's an interesting one. I don't. It's just what it was. It was this whole Judgment Day thing with Edge, and the whole situation there has been going on for way too freaking long. I mean, just end this shit already.
Wow, I mean, I can agree with you there, in all honesty. So it is a feud which has gone on for a very, very long time. Now, what I will say is this. Anthony, do you think that where do you see Finn Balor going now when it comes to WrestleMania? Do you think they're going to do him versus Edge?
I mean, I kind of feel like that's where they're going with it, and I'm going to throw something out there, and I don't think they would do it, but I mean, I think I would prefer this. What if Edge wins the U.S. title on Monday, and they bring Cena in for one final Edge versus Cena match at Mania? That's a bigger match to me, because realistically, you don't need the U.S. title for Theory to face. There's a number of things you could do with it, but I'd rather see an Edge versus Cena one last time at a Mania, especially if Edge is in his final year or running down the clock. There's very limited window for them to do that.
Yeah, I do. That is a very, very good point. Would you prefer to see that over Theory versus Cena?
Yeah, because I think that would be a better match. Honestly, I mean, I think it would be a better match. I know it wouldn't help Theory, but I'd rather see Edge versus Cena regardless.
What about you, Saul? Would you prefer Theory versus Edge for the US? Sorry, Theory versus Cena for the US title, or Edge versus Cena for the US title at Mania?
I would take Theory and Cena. I don't think Edge necessarily needs that at Mania. I would more take if they do SummerSlam in Canada, because Edge says he wants to retire in Canada, and have Cena versus Edge at SummerSlam in Canada as a farewell Edge match. I would take that over Mania, because I feel like Theory would gain more from a Mania match against Cena than Edge. So I would take that.
I'm going to be honest, I could bang on agree with you there on that one. So now, Clark, finally you. Theory or Edge against Cena at Mania?
I hate to do this because I feel like I've done it like 5 or 6 times now, but triple threat. Come on, guys. Why don't we do both at once? While we're up,
you
get the young guy and the 2 old guys. You can build that story around that. And also, I think the working in such close proximity to guys that have been iconic all-time rivals might be the best thing you could do for Theory to take the next step, and also seeing both sides, how Cena operates in that scenario and how Edge operates in that scenario. From that standpoint, I think the triple threat option in this one makes as much sense as the other multi-man matches that I've unfortunately fantasy booked on the Mania card. But at least if you can't make fun of yourself, who can?
Exactly, bang on. I mean, obviously we had some controversy in the comments the other day over your pitch about a fatal 4-way at WrestleMania, and I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I thought the hate was a bit unjustified.
I was out there just spitballing, guys, just trying to come up with ideas, man.
People are idiots.
Creative wheels spinning.
Presented a problem, which everyone's been talking about. How on earth is there a way you could do it? You presented a way in which you can do it, and everyone goes nuts.
It was great.
But it's what it is. But yeah, let's now move on to the next match, which was actually the match of 4. But Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. And this was quite a fun match for what it was. It was enjoyable right until Lesnar kicked. Well, Lesnar was in the Hurt Lock, and then he kicked Bobby Lashley in the nuts. And yeah, it was a DQ or finish. I'm never a fan of DQs, but Bray Wyatt said he challenged the winner of this match, so I'm guessing it's Lashley Wyatt at Mania. I'm not too excited to see that. I don't particularly want to see that. But yeah, this finish sucked. It seemed like it was setting up another match between the two at WrestleMania. But of course, because of what Wyatt said, that clearly is not the case. So at this point, who knows? Now, first of all, I'm going to send this to Saul. What did you think, Saul?
I hope Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley never face each other in a fucking ring again. They've been shit. First match, Roman interrupts and causes, Lashley to win the title off Lesnar. Then we get the Saudi show where they jump off the top rope and, it's like a pancake finish, which is messy. Then we've had this. Brock Lesnar being in the Hurt Locker and then low blowing. People have been hyping these two up for years. Bobby Lashley and Lesnar would be money. There'd be star power. This would be an absolute banger of a match. And what do we get? 3 piss takes. Why? Is it egos? No one wants to look weak and take a pin properly? Why? Just why? Why are we getting this crap? I hope they never face each other again. I hope they never even look in the same direction again. I hope this is the end of these two. Bobby Lashley goes on to do the Hurt Business, and Brock Lesnar can just be the part-timer he is and just comes back and pops the ratings and do what he has to do and be dominant. That's it. I hope this never happened again. This was a piss take. I don't want it ever again on WWE programming.
Wow. Big words there from you, Soul. Now I'm going to pass to Clark next because, of course, I know that you're a big fan of both of these guys.
A huge fan of both. I actually hear where Soul's coming from here, only because on paper this is a dream matchup from multiple angles, and I really don't understand why they haven't gotten it quite right. I really didn't understand the finish last night. I didn't understand why the match wasn't a bigger deal promotionally leading into Elimination Chamber. It just Bray Wyatt against either does nothing for me, not right now at least. Brock Lesnar pinned the Undertaker at WrestleMania 30, and I don't know if there's anything more mythical than the Undertaker at WrestleMania. How am I supposed to be convinced that he's scared of Bray Wyatt? But also, if Bobby's gonna reform the Hurt Business, how is he supposed to be afraid of Bray Wyatt either with the numbers game and it devalues Bobby Lashley's character too. I don't know. I don't blame the performers on this one. But I will say this. Shockingly enough, I agree a little bit where Soul's coming from. Like, I just don't. And I think it's a booking thing. I think they just banked on the on paper matchup was enough, and it wasn't, and it hasn't been.
It truly really has. I mean, every single one of them has been somewhat of a letdown. I mean, I didn't mind the Crown Jewel one, to be honest, but outside of that, I've not been a huge fan of any of these matches. And last night's was fun until it wasn't. What about you, Anthony? What did you think?
I mean, I think the Bobby Lashley, Brock Lesnar on paper sounds like a great idea. I don't think it's necessarily delivered up to the expectations. I thought it was an odd choice to do this match for the third time at Chamber and not at WrestleMania. I mean, the prospect of Bray Wyatt against either one of them, honestly, I have no interest whatsoever. I think Bray has not really delivered in his return either. I don't know what they're doing with the character. I would have preferred if they would have done, let's say, Bobby Lashley against Bray Wyatt last night and have Brock interfere and cost Lashley the match, setting up their WrestleMania match 3. And like I had said to Clark prior to the show, do it in the fight pit. It would make sense. It's their two strengths. It's a different type of match. And maybe that would be better than the straightforward regular matches they've been having that haven't been delivering. Maybe a fight pit would make the most sense here, especially their history.
Yeah, now we have one of the worst trilogies in WWE history right now. So
even then, though, the fight pit I think is intriguing, Anthony.
I love that.
It's a really good point, and ironically too, the fight pits thus far have featured a lot of high flying with the platforms up top. I think this would be more of a true fight pit, almost like GCW's Bloodsport, where it would be just a straight fight, and that almost might be the best way to do Brock Bobby, right? Like there's no climbing the cage up into the platform. There's no ropes. There's no hitting the ropes. It's just a big slugfest. And I think that's what we'd be craving between these two guys, especially given the physicality wise, right? There's almost nobody in the world that can match Brock Lesnar's physicality except Bobby freaking Lashley.
Well, we're missing something here. Why not bring back Raw Underground? That'd be a perfect. Do it for that. Bring Shane back. Let's get Raw Underground back and have Bobby Lashley.
Think Raw Underground's the place.
Quadrillion shit. Come on now.
I'd rather have the cage surrounding them than no ropes, for sure.
Please do not have Raw Underground back again. But the fight pit idea, I really do love, Anthony, and truthfully, I hadn't even thought about it. But yeah, I think that would be the way. That would be the perfect rubber match for this feud. However, instead of doing that at WrestleMania, or just not doing the Elimination Chamber match and instead saving it for WrestleMania, which is what I think they should have done, they decided to have Lashley versus Bray Wyatt. And yeah, you guys both touched on it. It's just not a feud which really anybody wants to see.
It's not appealing at all. It's really not appealing.
I mean, Lesnar, this version of Lesnar with Bray Wyatt, like there'd be some entertaining segments, you'd say, probably. I mean, the match itself, but there could be some entertaining segments. Lashley versus Wyatt, it just doesn't appeal to me at all. I don't think it's going to be a clash. I just don't think the stars are going to mesh well. I think the match is going to suck.
Well, and Ben, I said this to
even
Anthony
worse.
before the show about it. I said this. I was like, if you look at Bray Wyatt, Wyndham Rotunda, like, yes, he's a big dude. Physically, he's going to look at them eye to eye when they stand in the ring. But realistically speaking, he has to be spooky and mythical to be intimidating in any way to either Brock or Bobby Lashley. Those two dudes aren't scared of, right? Like, and now we're telling ghost stories, which is, that's where it's like, okay.
Yeah, what's Bray gonna do? Bring out the goddamn ectoplasm?
Yeah, it's like
neon green.
now we're telling campfire stories. That's basically where we're at.
Do we really want to see the Hurt Business get back with Bobby and have an MVP Uncle Howdy segment? I mean, really, come on. Where's the logic in here? You would think this is a good idea.
It makes you think, was Bray worth bringing back?
Merch wise, yeah, but other than that, I don't see it.
I mean, I've said this
as big as he first was.
I said this to Chaos and everything.
Entrance music's great though.
I think Bray was better with a mask on when he had true mystique. We didn't see the man behind the mask. Yes, we saw him as the whole Uncle Roger sort of character as well. But when he came out as the Fiend and masked, mysterious, and didn't say anything, and it was all kind of mysterious about it, that was better. But when you're too open and connective with the crowd, when you're meant to be a supernatural beast, why do you think the Undertaker never really cut promos of like I'm me, I love you, I skip around in the field and I hug everyone and kiss the babies? That's not scary and mysterious. Yes, as the American badass, he was still, keyword, a badass. Now, I know the thing about Bray is like, he's trying to open up and be more personal and connective. That's fine. If you're, like a Lex Luger type that's like, yes, I love the families and all that shit. But when you're meant to be like a supernatural guy who, crab walks with a mask on his face and has his uncle elbow dropping and missing people on the ramp, okay, but you're not working like this. Go back to the drawing board.
It's a good point. And I actually, my favorite version of Bray is still the Eater of Worlds. That worked when the mask wasn't even there. I thought that worked a lot better, because when the issue of the Fiend was, everybody who he worked with, it hurt. Whereas, the old Bray Wyatt, the original Bray Wyatt, if you'd like,
the Wyatt family was outstanding.
Yeah, the Wyatt family, that was the best thing, and they put people over too. So I'm not being
at the same time, in defense of the Fiend, I will say I think the debut with Finn Balor, all of that was amazing with the Fiend. I actually think they did an amazing job at WrestleMania 36 with the Firefly Funhouse thing with Cena. To be honest, controversially enough, like I really did like what they did there, and the head games and the multi-character thing. It actually made some sense to me, but to Soul's point about it, you can't have it both ways. You can't be the white meat babyface supernatural. No, it doesn't add up, and he's gonna have to have smoke and mirrors to intimidate either Bobby Lashley or Brock Lesnar. And we've seen enough smoke and mirrors, but it also doesn't, the dots don't connect.
Yeah. When you first said 36, my head straight away went to 37 with the Alexa Bliss segment.
Oh no, yeah, that did not go well.
Like,
you mean the Randy Orton one? No.
Yeah.
The only good thing about that match was Randy Orton's white gear was pretty cool with the black taped hands. It was a good look. That was sweet.
I mean,
that was the match which killed.
If this is the true unfiltered dream that Bray Wyatt had for the character that Vince, restricted, Vince was probably right. If you're looking at it, I mean, realistically, this is not. I don't know who this appeals to. I mean, I really don't. I mean, we've been watching wrestling for a while. We all pretty much kind of have a pretty consistent consensus here that it's not delivering.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Now let's move on to the next match, which once again was slightly controversial, but for a very different reason. And this match was the Elimination Chamber match for the United States Championship, with Austin Theory defending against Seth Rollins, Johnny Gargano, Bronson Reed, Damian Priest, and Montez Ford. And my, oh my, this match was great. Seth Rollins and Johnny Gargano kicked it off with the chemistry between them two. Fantastic. I'd love to see more of them. I can't wait to see more of them in the future. Bronson Reed looked great in it too. So did Damian Priest. So did Montez Ford when he joined. Austin Theory looked solid as well. Nothing against Austin Theory, just to make that clear as well. It was just all around a really, really good in-ring Elimination Chamber encounter. However, when it got controversial was towards the ending, because they did a Montez Ford type of concussion spot, which I believe was his kayfabe, and it was a bit weird. And then in came Logan Paul to screw over Seth Rollins, and we all know Clark's thoughts on Logan Paul, so I'm going to head to him first. What did you think about this entire match, Clark?
By that time on the show last night, it was just you and I watching. I really did enjoy the match all the way through. And you know my thoughts on Logan Paul, but I actually even enjoyed his spot. And I'm a huge Montez Ford fan. This is not Montez Ford's fault at all. I was uncomfortable with the selling on the concussion thing. It bugged me. It looked, because it made me really nervous that he was actually seriously concussed with the stumbling. It made me nervous, and it kind of turned me off at the end of the match. I like the physicality and the violence in wrestling as much as the next guy. I really do. I'm not, but just the it was almost too good a selling. And that was an issue a little bit for me. I do understand, leaves the door open for the cage, and Logan Paul, the spot was executed well. The match bell to bell was outstanding, but that one thing, and I don't blame Montez Ford in the least. Not at all. That's not what I'm saying. But that did just kind of shut me off on the ending of the match because I was concerned for his, safety. And I know that's a part of wrestling, but the concussion thing, it's like head injury. It's different. And that, I wish they would have gone with something where maybe he hurt a different body part. I made the comment last night, I think to you, Ben. Separated shoulder, sprained ankle, torn whatever, right? And you can kayfabe it up as much as you like or whatever, but the traumatic brain injury thing, that's, and on the steel with the stomp, I think it was a great spot. If he pins him, that's no problem for me. But yeah, the selling of the concussion was, that one turned me off at the end of the match. But outside of that, I thought the match bell to bell was unbelievably outstanding. And if anything, I thought Montez almost borderline stole the show.
What about you, Anthony? What were your thoughts on this match?
I really enjoyed it. And this was one of those matches that when we did the preview show, we kind of wrote it off almost like the women's, it's predictable, Theory's going to win, Theory's going to retain. But this match really did what a chamber match is supposed to do, where everyone made the most of it and showcased themselves. I mean, Bronson Reed, he got eliminated. It took 3 finishers to take him out. So it protected Bronson. It had several moments. Gargano's Hurricane Rana from the top of the chamber, I thought was a great spot. Johnny and Seth starting it out was phenomenal. That definitely has to be a feud, because I think they could put on some incredible matches together. Them just teaming up and beating up Theory in the pod, I thought was great. I did kind of find it funny that Corey Graves threw out, it's like they're beating him up in a phone booth. And I'm like, you do realize, Corey, like a majority of this audience doesn't even know what a phone booth is. But yeah, I mean, I thought that was great. And the Montez spot, it was scary. Like that was an incredible sell job by him, falling down the steps. I get why they did it. Especially the curb stomp on the outside. I get it. But I would have rather, instead of faking the concussion, you could have just said he was knocked out and they were helping him out. The concussion part I thought was a little questionable to do because of how realistic that it ended up looking.
Yeah.
I get it. They left the door open. It all made sense from that end. I thought Logan Paul, like taunting Seth, hanging on the cage. I thought that was I don't know if somebody told him that or that was just instinct. I thought that was a great visual for them to do. The Montez, I don't even know what we would call it, the climbing when he was hanging from the roof and did the drop. I thought that was a great visual.
Unbelievable.
I mean, I just think that match really delivered. And maybe that's because the bar was so low. It just over delivered. But I really think it showcased everybody in that match to such a degree that it really came off well. Gargano and Montez especially really needed, especially Gargano needed that showcase because they really haven't done much with him. So I really think that was a really good match for both of them.
And actually, coming out of that Elimination Chamber, it's almost Rollins versus Gargano. I want to see more than Rollins versus Logan Paul, but that's the direction they're going in. What did you think about it all, Sol?
Well, we know how my thoughts were about it. That the returns have been disappointing. It was really been built up, and it'll just feel stale. Coming out of this, everyone looked absolutely exceptional. Gargano and Rollins were going at it. Bronson Reed being a dominating son of a bitch. Montez Ford, concerned about, he's done fine. Hell, he had so many great moments in there as well. Damian Priest was probably the one I was a bit, out of all of them, least about, just because he's been with Judgment Day and he's done his own shtick there. But Austin Theory as well, fighting champion. I think this chamber was exceptional. It was probably one of the best chambers we've had in a wee bit as well, with what everyone came out of it. Everyone pretty much was elevated out of it. And Logan Paul with Seth Rollins, I don't care about this shit at all. I don't like Logan. Yes, he's a fine wrestler, but as a person, I couldn't give two shites about him. It's a shame. I kind of want Seth in a program with Gargano now at Mania instead of this pish. So, yeah. I mean, hey, Edge is challenging Theory for his US title on Raw tomorrow, so that'll be interesting to see. But, yeah, I feel like, I just wish Seth was in a different program.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of things which, a lot of people thought they were going to do, especially at the start of the year. People thought that they were going to do Rollins versus Rhodes, their final match to sum it up, following their trilogy at WrestleMania. But they've decided to go, they needed somebody for Logan Paul. I presume, because of course Logan Paul very clearly wanted John Cena, I presume that they decided that Austin Theory would be the better choice for Cena, or perhaps Cena can't do the show. We don't really know yet. But, they've chosen Seth Rollins, and I somewhat feel bad for Seth because he's not had, he seems to just be the guy they get in to, he seems to just be the guy who they put in that spot at WrestleMania. They just throw him in a WrestleMania match where they just need somebody. And, he should be, main event in WrestleManias. He should not be the guy who's just there to, put over a debut like Cody Rhodes or face a celebrity like Logan Paul. He's just felt directionless in WrestleMania for a few years now, which is really weird because he's arguably the modern day Mr. WrestleMania. He steals the show pretty much every year. But it's whatever it is. What are your thoughts, Clark, on Logan Paul versus Seth Rollins seemingly at WrestleMania?
I had better thoughts until you stole them with the last sentence there, which is you look at Shawn Michaels. He didn't have to win every year at Mania. It was plug and play, man. And you can put him anywhere on the card. You can put him against Jericho. You can put him against Kurt Angle. You can put him anywhere on the card. He doesn't have to win. He doesn't have to lose. It doesn't have to be anything other than he is in the most exciting steal the show match on the whole card. And that's who Seth Rollins is. And to be totally honest, I don't totally get the Drip God character with all the outfits. It's kind of knockoff Joker-ish. I thought the Joker segment was great.
Oh, yeah.
I don't totally get it. At the end of the day, I would say he's as close to Shawn when it comes to that Mr. WrestleMania comparison that you made as anybody of late. And that's a testament to how good he is, because he does not have to win to steal the show. And that's one of the things that makes Seth great. But I also agree, he's only got so many years of prime physicality and prime wrestling. And it is kind of a shame these last few, this stretch, to not see him in the title picture in a bigger, on the marquee per se, right? In the biggest match on the card. what he did for Cody Rhodes last year in Mania was, I mean, I don't know if there's anybody with the status of Seth Rollins in the industry that would be willing to do that like he did and put Cody over in that scenario with no guarantee that it was even Cody. Remember, like Cody was a surprise. He carried the storyline into the event, and then they put on a 5-star match. And I think that's what makes Seth so great. And I mean, underrated isn't a stretch for Seth Rollins even. But I think in the long run, we'll look back and it'll be like Sean, where you go, he was kind of the MVP.
Yeah.
Because he could do it all.
Absolutely. And you briefly mentioned as well that WrestleMania Hollywood trailer, which we saw during the show, where Seth was the Joker and Becky Lynch was Batman, and that was awesome. That really, really was awesome. We talked about the possibility of them filming these WrestleMania Hollywood commercials on the show a couple weeks ago. Well, not a couple weeks ago, last week. But this really, the way they pulled it off fantastically. It was really entertaining to see. And yeah, it just suited Rollins perfectly. Becky's Batman voice was fantastic. I was not expecting it.
Great.
But yeah, now let's move on to, what everybody was looking forward to on the show. It's safe to say a match which arguably could and perhaps should have main evented at WrestleMania, but they did it in Montreal, understandably so, and the crowd really, really was hot for Sami Zayn. There was Sami. If Sami wins, if Roman wins, we riot signs all around. And yeah, Sami Zayn, he went into it. He wasn't sure if he believed himself, but in the end, he did believe in himself. But it was not enough, and he lost to Roman Reigns. Now, the match itself was a decent match. It was quite fun. However, it did almost perfectly follow the exact same formula Reigns versus McIntyre did. Clash at the Castle, which was a little bit annoying, but it's whatever. But yeah, Sami Zayn had a couple of near falls in it. The crowd were really, really rooting for him, and a couple of times they believed that he could win. Jey Uso did show up, but he couldn't take out Sami Zayn, and he also couldn't take out Roman Reigns. But Sami Zayn accidentally took out Jey Uso. And yeah, in the end, Reigns, got the upper hand and won the match. Of course, not cleanly, but it was what you expected. Apart from the fact we didn't get the J turn, and instead it was similar to a lot of matches they've done in this title reign. The crowd truly was on fire, but it just felt like, and we've seen this a couple of times during this title reign. It just felt like this was a missed opportunity for the title to change hands. Now, perhaps you could say maybe Cody does it at WrestleMania or somebody else down the line takes the title off Roman. Perhaps you can say that all of this, built it up all the time as where you thought that Roman might lose and he won. It would have, maybe that builds up when Roman does lose the title to make it feel more special. And additionally, a lot of people were surprised that Sami didn't win last night. And that was something which, quite frankly, did surprise me a bit because, of course, Sami wasn't going to win. No way were they going to take the titles off Roman Reigns just over a month before WrestleMania in Hollywood, especially when the original plan was Reigns versus Rock. If Rock's not, going to be there, and he was heavily teased to be there, then you certainly can't take Roman Reigns from that main event. I mean, the way which you could have done it is you could have set up for another match or you could have done it at Mania. But I really don't see how anybody could say that Sami Zayn should have won the title a month before Mania because they need Roman to be able to sell that pay-per-view. They really, really do. But what are your thoughts on this, Sol? Because I know you have some passionate thoughts about this one.
Okay, so before I start shooting off, the crowd were probably the best wrestling crowd I've seen since AEW. The Dynamite after Full Gear when Hangman won the title. That was my favorite wrestling crowd, and so was All Out 2021. But this one at Montreal brought their whole A game tonight for every match, minus the shit one with Lashley and Lesnar. But they brought it. Crowd reactions, enthusiasm. They were behind Sami, not even 100%. They were behind Sami 200% of the way. They were there for his moment tonight. The match itself, Sami and Roman brought it. great performers, did what they had to do. Moves were hit perfectly. Emotional connection was there. Roman talking shit to Sami's wife. I love that little section where Sami comes out of the ring, throws Roman against the barricade, chucks him back in, runs back in, and grabs his wife and just kisses her and goes back in. Love that character. Exceptional. Now the bad. Why did Kevin Owens not come out before? Why did he wait until Sami had lost? He had 2 interferences and screwed over, then to come out. If he was back there, and you could say Sami hasn't been truly 100% behind Kevin and all that, but you would think he's seen the error of his ways. I'll go help him. That's something that aching me a bit as well. The whole interference thing as well, I understand it. I felt it was a bit muddled. It was too much. Jay not even taking a side kind of leads towards Roman's going to be now the bloodline's well, you were there, but you didn't defend me now. You were hesitant. That's not a good thing for the bloodline. You're going to get your arse scalped pretty much. That's what's going to happen now. But listen to that crowd afterwards. When Sami was pinned for the free, there was no cheer. There was no boos. Silence. It was done. People's heart, determination, and will were sucked from them. This was supposed to be a character story-ending moment. This is like The Walking Dead dragging on for 2 seasons now, pretty much. You had an end here. I know WrestleMania was in 5 weeks, and Cody Rhodes, which was probably promised in his contract when Vince signed him just to get him secure because he was an AEW EVP, his main event title win push, probably that was in the contract. Yes, I understand that, but you lost a character and story-ending moment for Sami, a made guy. Cody's made. He's had his Ring of Honor championship run. He started AEW. He's had his run in AEW as well, which some people beg to differ, successful or not successful. Made man. Sami, not really a made man. This was a normal growth through connection and storytelling, and it's been lost. Now, could they do a rematch down the line if for some reason the American Nightmare doesn't win against Roman at Mania? Possibly. I mean, we saw, with the whole Daniel Bryan situation in 2014. Yes, but I just think that now, if you've taken the people's choice away, what the hell is the people going to do to the replacement? Because we've seen what Cody Rhodes has been booed at in AEW when he just simply didn't turn heel. Now he's seen as the enemy who's taken their choice away to be slipped in as the poster child. Hardcore fans are going to lose their shit. That's all I got to say. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, then I'm...
I mean, it's something which I've been concerned about now for, a number of weeks, and that is the fans possibly turning on Cody. But I know Anthony and Clark, you both said the entire time you didn't think it would happen. And I'm going to be honest, I'm actually now in agreement with you. I don't think it will. I think the segment with Cody and Sami was genius. It took a lot of balls to do, but I think it was genius because I made it clear that Cody was on the side of Sami Zayn. But I think from a kayfabe perspective, Cody's fine for the time being. I think it's after WrestleMania where he's going to have to fear, because I think that, they often turn on, faces, especially ones who've just had their big moment. So, yeah, I think a couple of months after Mania is when perhaps the crowd will turn on Cody Rhodes. But Anthony, what is your response to that? Because I know you've, of course, been a big, big fan of the Sami Zayn Bloodline storyline. You've written countless articles on it on WrestlingPublic.com. Make sure you guys check that out if you haven't read them already. But yeah, what are your thoughts on how it played out in the end?
I mean, it's one of those things where the story has been phenomenal with it, but you look at it realistically. Is Roman going to lose a 900-plus day reign on a B pay-per-view? Literally 30 days from Mania. Them putting Cody and Sami in the ring during a segment. In New York, one of the toughest crowds to perform in front of, the crowd did not turn on Cody. That, to me, tells me he's safe. I get people being upset Sami didn't win. It's a great story. If the Cody story wasn't also in play, I go, yeah, you do that at Mania. But the Cody story is so great, and I don't buy the whole, oh, it's in his contract, he's winning the title. We don't know that. So even suggesting it is just speculation. I don't think they put that in there personally, but I don't know. I haven't seen the contract. As far as the match itself, typically I prefer the champion coming out first, but I think it made champion coming out last. But I think it made sense in this one because Roman was able to stare down Sami while he came down. And it gave Sami that moment with the crowd too. So I think that was nicely done. And as far as Kevin Owens not coming in sooner, I think the way they played it made sense because, yeah, he took out the bloodline, but it was like a stare down with Sami. Like, yeah, we're friends, but I'm still pissed at you that you didn't step in and help me sooner. Like, they're not fully good. Like, if he would have came out, took out the bloodline, did a hug with Sami, then you go, okay, this makes no sense. Why didn't he come out sooner? And that was my thought when he first came out. I'm going, well, why didn't he come out sooner? But the way they played it, where he's staring down Sami going, we've been through wars. I'm still pissed at you. We're not there yet. And that gives them time to do that whole reunion moment where they make peace and then, they feud with the Usos at Mania. They gave that. And it had little things like, was Jay going to turn on Roman? That was something that we speculated the other day. Would the bloodline continue without Roman and attack him like a bunch of hyenas, like Lion King with Scar, where they turned on Scar? That's the thought that I thought. They would still be heels, but they turned on Scar. Scar was still a bad guy. They just had enough of his crap. So I think that would make sense. But again, this whole storyline has been, you think you know where they're going, but they go another way, and somehow it's working. I think that's the key thing here is whatever they're doing, and it's the same booking team that's booking Bray in the Judgment Day, makes no sense, but they're nailing it with the bloodline, the Cody stuff. I think it's a great story. I think WrestleMania is going to be fine. It's not going to be hijacked. I think they're fine with it, honestly.
A couple of things here. Firstly, I don't understand this disrespect to the Judgment Day everybody's giving online. I've not had that much of an issue with it, but
terrible.
We'll get back. We'll get more into that in the coming days. But the one thing you said, Anthony, about Kevin Owens, I completely agree with you on, in the fact that he didn't even necessarily come out to save Sami Zayn. It
was the bloodline. He came after.
Yeah,
he didn't even address Sami.
He returned in Canada to get revenge on the bloodline who screwed him at the Rumble. It doesn't even necessarily mean that he was going to save Sami, and I thought it was done well. I'm glad that they've not just suddenly do it all. Kevin and Sami are best buddies again. I'm glad they've not gone down that route. And honestly, I'm kind of glad they didn't do the Jey Uso turn yet. I mean, if they would have done the Jey Uso turn on Sami, I think there's less chance of there being a hijack, even though I don't think it's going to happen.
It's super weird, though.
Less likely if they did the turn. But yeah, what were your thoughts on the match, Clark?
What's super weird, though, wasn't there somebody that suggested like a 4-way scenario at Mania involving Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns? I feel like there was earlier this week there was a guy that may have brought that up. I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but I loved the match. I love Sami Zayn bell to bell almost every time, and this was no different. Was it similar to McIntyre? Yes. The Jay non-turn I loved. The Heyman spot post-match with Kevin was outstanding. It was hysterical.
So good.
Do I know where they're going? Still no, and it's still the bloodline storyline. That's where I think a little bit people overlooked into this is the end of the Sami bloodline book. I don't necessarily think, even if they don't go the Sami Roman route at Mania, that this is the end of the Sami bloodline story. Not by any means. It may be the logical break, right? It's like the intermission maybe at worst. Or there's a scenario where they work everybody into a main event situation, Kevin, Sami, and Roman and Cody at Mania. There's multiple, I would imagine, and that's above my personal pay grade, but I do think it's possible to recover. I understand the fear of people because Sami's just so over. At the end of the day, WrestleMania is not in Montreal. And that's something kind of we've failed to mention, right? Last night was in Montreal, and that's a different animal. That's a home game. Cena in Boston, Edge in Toronto. Examples like that of Punk in Chicago. It's one of those things where that's as big a part of it, and that's no knock on Sami Zayn. I love Sami Zayn, and I just don't want him to leave the title picture for long. Would be my only request. If anyone was listening, I guess that could, help me out with that. But yeah, if we can get Sami right back in the world title picture here towards the end of the calendar year, that would be excellent. And outside of that, I don't really have many complaints about that main event, man. It's pretty darn good.
I'm gonna be completely honest, Clark. I think if a Fatal 4-Way ever was the plan, the second you predicted it and WWE saw the reaction and the comments to it, I think that plan was scrapped. But yeah, I mean, I really do hope Sami gets his moment as world champion, but truthfully, I don't think it's going to happen now. I think this was the time to do it. I don't think he's going to get another moment. So I don't think they should have done it last night, but I mean, if there ever was a moment to do it, it would have been last night. Unless they did it at Mania, I don't think that we're going to see him at that level ever again. I hope I'm wrong. I really, really do hope I'm wrong, but I'm not sure I am. But
I have a question for you guys, actually, if I can propose. Going into Mania, more than likely it's going to be Kevin Owens and Sami versus the Usos for the tag belts, and Roman versus Cody. Which match are you guys personally interested in from a story perspective? Because I'm more interested in Sami and Kevin versus the Usos over Roman and Cody, because I don't think that's got really a story to it.
It's a bit of both for me personally. I'll just jump in. I think the Cody story, interestingly enough, he's done an amazing job of filling in the gaps on television, but I do think the injury almost hindered it in a touch, because there would have been some time where if Cody hadn't had the hurt pec, you could tell this longer story, but at the end of the day, the finish the story, the father-son, the childhood dream, all of that does, I would say personally, it's enough for me that I wouldn't call them necessarily equals, because the difference is that the Bloodline story has been told on television in a way more, I would say, on WWE television in the last year, more than, let's say, right, the Cody story has. But knowing as big of a fan as we all are, I would say knowing the Cody story, it's fine with me.
It's a simple story to understand. Trying to achieve something that his father couldn't do, a childhood dream. I think it's a real simple story to understand, and I think that's what connects to the audience, and the audience loves Dusty. So I think there's a part of that is the intrigue.
Allison, boss?
Yeah, truthfully, Cody versus Reigns. That's my honest answer about it. I'm super excited for both, but Cody versus Reigns, Cody's big moment, I'm very excited for, and I'm not. You'd have to presume Cody's winning, but who knows? And we're not gonna know until the time. And Chaos is in the comments saying so is so anti-Cody now. Which is, I mean, who was the one sticking up for him in AEW last year? So that's all I'll add to that conversation. But no, I mean, listen, I do understand. There's a very good argument. Yeah. There's a very good argument that Sami Zayn should have been the one to do it at WrestleMania, but I'm still excited for Cody versus Reigns. The couple of segments they've had the past couple of weeks have sold me on it, because I was criticizing it a couple of weeks ago. I was like, I don't know how this story's going to be. But so far, they've nailed it. They've got another 5 weeks to nail it, so I'm not too worried. But that is all that we have time for on today's show, everybody. Thank you for tuning in with us. We broke down the show, and it was overall a great Elimination Chamber, in my personal opinion. But we'll be back tomorrow. We'll be talking Monday Night Raw, previewing that show, as well as talking about Jay White officially leaving New Japan Pro Wrestling. Anthony will be with me tomorrow. I think Coby's going to be back tomorrow as well. Clark's finally going to get his day off. And yes, but we'll be back tomorrow, same time, guys. Not same time, a bit early tomorrow, 8 p.m. UK time. That's 12 Pacific and 3 Eastern. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow.